Did you know that 2 of the top 10 reasons that couples give for divorcing are lack of communication and lack of emotional intimacy? Well, I didn't either, but apparently that's the case. And that's why you need to develop the love habit of maintaining communication and maintaining emotional intimacy. So how do people lose their communication and their emotional intimacy? Well, it's not what they planned, but you hear it all the time. People say, "Well, we just drifted apart," or the common scenario is the kids come along and the parents feel like they're just roommates renting a space above a daycare, except the kids never go home. And that's why you need a plan. So last week, I introduced the whole topic of love habits. And today, I'm going to talk about the first love habit, which is maintaining the communication and the emotional intimacy in your marriage. So, like I said, nobody plans, they don't get married and say, "Hey, why don't we get married and, spend the next 5 years drifting apart? See how that goes." No, it's not the plan. And like I said, you need a plan to combat this because it is a significant portion of the divorces are represented by this. People just drift apart. Well, how does it happen? Well, we faced that when we were first married, and it was a hard time. We were about 3 years in. Actually, a little more than that. Our first child was 3, so we were more like between 4 and 5 years in. And we were building the house. I was working on the house and working a job. And basically, we had a lot of little fights. And then we had some big fights. And then we basically got to a point where my wife came to me and said, "We got to do something different." And I'm like, "Well, what did you have in mind?" And she said, basically, "We need to go out together. We need to do something." And that's where the first love habit that I'm going to focus on today came from. She suggested that we start dating again. And I knew something had to happen. It was hard, but I was all for anything that would help. Of course, I had all the excuses, it's too expensive. We can't afford that right now because we've got the house. We're building the house, and no babysitter, and I don't know what to do, and we're just too busy. We don't have time to date. That sounds like a lot of excuses, but apparently a lot of people have those same excuses because only in a survey, 30% of couples said they only get out once a month. Only 11% of couples said that they get out once a week. 36% said they don't get out at all. They don't go out. And I suppose somewhere in there's the people that, well, we go out on, anniversary and birthdays. So, and that's probably kind of where we were at. It's not like we never went on a date. It was just sporadic. There was no plan. It was just, maybe we'll go out or something like that. And with the kids, it was harder. So we had to work on it. And we had to overcome those excuses. Like, it's too expensive. Well, we'll do something cheap. In our town, Chinese food was about as cheap as you could get. So we had our cheap Chinese dates. And because it was cheaper at lunch, we had our date at lunch. And my mom was in the area, so she had a date with our son, and we had our date, and it started a habit. And very, very few weeks go by where we don't have at least one date. And it's evolved over time. We finished the house, we got moved along better, and now it's usually Friday night and sometimes Friday and Saturday. So it all depends, but make sure you make the time, because it felt like we were too busy, and that's just an excuse. This is a huge area where you can end up losing your marriage if you don't maintain your emotional connection, your emotional intimacy, and maintain the communication. And like I said, I'm going to focus on two areas. One area being um, developing a date night, making sure that you get that. And the other area is daily communication, because that's the thing that we also ran into trouble with. We'd go, it's not that we weren't like in the same place, it's just like we didn't take the extra time to actually connect. We were like roommates. We were just going and doing our thing. She was doing her thing with the kid, and I was doing my thing with work. And days would go by where we didn't really have a real conversation other than, I'll see you tonight, honey. And, what's for dinner? That was our conversation. Or maybe would get around to what did our son do today, or stuff like that. But it was all very shallow. We didn't really have a huge connection going. So it took some effort. We had to put some work in, and we did. And over time, like I said, we seldom missed our weekly date, and we seldom missed our daily connection now. Why? Because we made it a habit. And like I said, these are called love habits, because if you get that going, if you get that started, make it a habit to connect daily. Sit down and have coffee together, have a snack together, put the kids somewhere where they're safe, and just spend some time, connecting. Texts are okay. It's okay to text your wife during the day. That's a good thing, actually. Keep her up to date, let her know, tell her you're thinking about her. But you can't beat the eye-to-eye contact. It's a necessity. You've actually got to sit down with your wife and have a conversation. It could be about your day, her day, things coming up. It doesn't have to be heavy and deep. It shouldn't be, actually. It should just be daily. Make sure you connect. And like I said, it's got to be longer than, I'll be home at this time and what's for dinner. Because that's a good start, but you really need to have a deeper conversation than that. And then on top of that, if you do these two things, if you start dating your wife again, and if you also make sure you have that daily connection, in essence, you are divorce-proofing your marriage. Because the other reasons given for divorce were basically offshoots of not having that daily connection time, not having the emotional intimacy. So that's the baseline. If you can manage to maintain the daily connection, and then also have at least one date a week. And like I said, it doesn't have to be expensive. We started with cheap Chinese, and then we worked up to a Friday night date. And sometimes we have 2 or 3 dates a week because we like each other. Because over the years, we've maintained the emotional connection, and we've maintained our emotional intimacy. We like each other. And that's one of the best ways to divorce-proof your marriage, to make sure that you have something left when the kids leave. You don't look at the person you're living with and say, who are you? You know them because you've been connected with them all these years. So that's the plan. How do you put it in action? Well, start by dating. Dating a married woman is the best advice you can ever get. Um, for us, like I said, it started out on Saturdays because that was cheaper. We had a built-in babysitter, and we could take the time because we knew we had to. You can make a date out of anything. You can go to the supermarket and have a date. You can go to buy something at Walmart and have a date. But you've got to make it work. Don't just like stand next to each other at your kids' ball practice and call that a date. That's not a date. It needs to be a time where you actually put the phone down, with or without food, having time, in the car, talking while you're not moving. That can be a date. Like I said, it doesn't have to be expensive. It just needs to happen every week. And if you can't make it happen every week, well, at least every couple of weeks. And then try to make it more often. It's worth whatever time and money you put into it, because like I said, when the kids move away and you're an empty nester, you'll still have your best friend, and it'll still be fun, and you will have navigated some of life's most difficult things, having kids, getting older, being parents of adult children. Those things are difficult. But if you have put in the effort and you still have the emotional connection, it'll be easy and you won't even notice it. So that's the first one. That's maintaining the emotional intimacy. Next week, I'm going to talk about maintaining the physical connection and how you keep that going for your whole marriage, because that's what it was designed for. In any case, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe. If you're getting something out of this, please add some comments. Let me know what you're thinking. If there's something you think I've missed that you'd like to talk about, go ahead and throw it in the comment line. And I will see you next week for maintaining the physical connection in marriage. Looking forward to it.